this is Rahsaan Bahati, races for the Bahati Foundation, superstar in Southern California. What is the Bahati Foundation?
The Bahati Foundation is a non-profit organization that caters to inner-city kids. The goal is to inspire them, uplift them, let them know that there's a way out of the rough and tough jungles of the inner city, and it's all across the United States. And we encourage them through education, music, and sports.
Awesome. So if you make a donation to your foundation, then it goes to supplying bikes or clothes? Or
90% of the donations we receive go right back into either a cycling team, a junior cycling team, be it True Cycling, Major Motion, any cycling team that caters to juniors, and then a really small percentage goes to buying equipment for up-and-comers who want to get into the sport. And then another small percentage goes to helping me travel to get to places to promote the foundation, speak to kids, and encourage them.
Sure, it's a business.
Yeah.
Well, let's get right into this here. You've raced for some big teams like Mercury, Saturn, Rock Racing. What we all want to know is, first thing is, what happened with the demise of the Bahati team when they became competitive cyclists? Why didn't you go with them?
That's a very, very deep question, honestly, because a lot of things happen behind the scene that a majority of the people don't know about. And it's funny that you actually have that question, because in Chicago this past weekend, the guy I was staying with brought it up to Rudy Napolitano, as if Rudy knew about it, and Rudy had no clue like what really happened, because Rudy wasn't on the team. However, Rudy's in Southern California, he's friends with me, he thought Rudy should know what happened. So it really started to fall apart, and no one has ever heard this besides the people who was involved. I had a van and trailer, which I think Cashcall owns now, parked at my house, full of equipment, Canano bikes, Durace wheels, just everything you need to run a team. At the time, Nathan O'Neill was on the team, and I believe he had good intentions to bring some people in from Georgia to try to help drum up some more sponsorship dollars to keep the team going. So long story short, these guys from Competitive Cyclists, which they are now, came to my house, got the trailer and van, drove it back to Georgia, and they were going to go to Canada for Tour de Beauce. So I'll try to water this down because it's a really long story. So they go to Tour de Beauce, and from Tour de Beauce up till August Nationals, something really went wrong. Pretty much they held my trailer and van hostage. I wanted all the stuff back. So I ended up calling in some favors to some pretty high people within law enforcement, and that's the only reason I got the trailer back. So a police friend from Chicago actually flew down to Georgia, met these guys at a train station because they didn't want to meet anywhere else, got the van and trailer. He didn't think to look inside of it. So I go to Nationals, I get to Chicago, and my wife and I are going to drive the trailer back. It's our property. We're going to drive it back, and so I decided to throw my bike and everything in the back of the trailer. It is dead bone empty.
No.
There's nothing in there but 2 DirecTV satellite dishes, and I'm like, I never had that. So it was, my heart dropped. It was really disappointing, and then that's where a lot of the tension from my end came. I mean, I was furious, because now you have these guys from Georgia that runs this Competitive Cyclist team really putting a bad name out there about me. They're telling the Canada people that I stole all this equipment. They're telling the guys at Shimano that I stole all their equipment, and the guys in Canada with Louis Garneau that I took all the garments and I'm selling them, where I had nothing. I had absolutely nothing. It was like, for me, why would I steal from myself? I'm shooting myself in the foot if I'm doing that. So it was like his word against my word, and eventually a picture came out. A picture came out of these guys from Competitive Cyclists actually selling the equipment at an event in Georgia. Yeah, so now I have physical evidence. So I take the physical evidence, I send out an email to to Dustin at Dury or Shimano, to Bill Riddell at Cannondale, to Pierre Perron at Louis Gardner, all the big sponsors that really helped get our team up and going. And it was kind of like a jaw drop, damn response, but really nothing else came about it, you know, because now Louis Gardner was kind of tied in with this team, and I think Cannondale maybe was tied in. And so it was just a really
big mess.
It was a big mess, and it.
What have you learned from it?
I really have to learn how to judge people. I think I got in bed with the wrong people from the start, you know, from the very beginning. And lesson learned, you know, it was my first time. I learned also that I should have stuck to my guns. You know, initially when I started the team, it was going to be like a 8 to 10 man squad. It was going to be really small, bunch of tight knitted people, and it just blossomed into this big freight train that went out of control. And if I learned anything, I would learn to keep my vision intact and don't let anyone kind of deviate what I had envisioned, you know.
You went to Europe with the U.S. national team.
Mm-hmm.
What stopped you from going to the next level?
You know, this is another tough question. You said you had some for me.
Well, we all want to know.
Well, I hate to point fingers.
Yeah. Just be honest, that's it.
I guess this is a question where you could say, oh, he's pointing fingers, or an answer, okay. I would say. I would say for me, I didn't have the support that other riders have today that are in the Pro Tour. I'll give you a perfect example. Tyler Farrar was on the team the same time as me when the now Barracuda team was TIA Cref. I went over there my first year out of college. So keep in mind, I haven't been racing full time for about 4.5 years. So I got out of school, raced a full season, got some decent results. Jonathan Waters picked me up. Went straight to Europe. I thought I did pretty good. I was getting dropped like the last 10, 15K of almost every race just because I didn't have the endurance, you know, after you know, yeah. And pretty much through a phone conversation, he told me I was worthless. And that hurt. That hurt a lot. I've never really had anyone be so blunt with me about, you know, my potential. He didn't say it to me, he said it to another director. And I just feel like, looking back on it, I just wish I had that one person that really put their arm around me and stuck with me through thick and thin. You know, I think another year in Europe and I would have been one of the best riders over there when it comes to the sprints. There was an article that came out, Bell News put out, that said, what if? I don't know if you ever saw that.
No.
It was a pretty cool article, and it said, what if, and it was talking about Mercury for the most part. What if Viatel didn't pull out? And they had me down there, and like maybe 4 down, they said, would Rahsaan Bahati be the best sprinter in the peloton in Europe right now? Because I was on the right track for the most part. You know, I went to school, so that set me back a little bit in cycling, but I think I would have been one of the best guys to race a bike over in Europe, and it would have been good for me.
Well, you're arguably one of the fastest guys in the United States. Hands down. We all know it. When you train, you're one of the fastest. Why aren't you on a pro team right now?
I have my own theories. I try, honestly, not to point fingers at anyone.
No.
But we can go back to the Bahati team from 2010 and the things that transpired. I know that there's guys out there right now within the industry that have something against me. Jonas Carney runs the Optimum Health team. There's people out there saying, and I haven't heard it from his mouth, this is just a rumor mill, and most of the time in cycling industry the rumor mill is pretty true, that he has something against me because some of his friends were on my team and the team fell apart. And I was just like, I sit back and I think to myself, you know, yes, my name was all over it, okay, I'll take responsibility for that. But in the big picture, I didn't want the team to end. I didn't want guys on the team that I couldn't pay. Like that's never the intentions, you know.
How do we change their perception if this is what their perception is?
Yeah.
Because everybody wants to see you racing at the highest level. I believe that. I think you're good for the sport.
Mm-hmm.
But how do we change the perception? Because perception's 90% of...
I know.
So how do you change it?
I'm just continuing to be myself, you know. I'm not out there sending emails, knocking down doors. I'm just going about my business. I know who I am. I know what I've done. I know what I have done for the sport. I know what the sport have done for me. And I'm just going to continue to go forward. And I have to be honest, there's times where I want to just walk away from the sport because it's tough, and sometimes I think about my color, sometimes I think about my upbringing. I think, coupled all together, does that have anything to do with the position I'm in right now?
Well, would you ever be in a position where you would take a guy like, Justin Williams, for example?
Mm-hmm.
He's one of the fastest guys in America right now, too. And, Paul Abrahams is kind of taking him under his wing.
Mm-hmm.
Would you ever be in a position now at your age to let a guy do that for you?
To have someone take me under their wing?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm 30 years old. I don't feel 30, I was just, again, having another conversation with someone about how much I ride and what I can do in some of these races, I did a 100K crit last Saturday in Chicago, and it wasn't easy. It had a hill in it. 60% of the guys dropped out. These guys are on pro teams. They're getting paid. They're riding 20-plus hours a week. I ride 6 to 7 hours a week,
I think what you did in the Barry Wolf was amazing.
It's just tenacity. I love the sport, and I have 20 years worth of riding in my legs. So it's not like I lost everything because I'm not training the 20-plus hours that I did last year. But, when you get to the end, you see Justin kicking my butt. It's because, that level of riding is just not up to par where it needs to be. But, I'm happy with my fitness and what I can do in some of these races with the little time that I spend on the bike.
You are amazing in the criterium. I've watched you many times. And you have this way where you are in the front, and then you slingshot all the way to the back. And I'm thinking, oh my God, for him to make up that much ground again. But for some reason, it's like, I feel like it's one of your classic moves where nobody knows where you are. Is that true?
Can't tell you about that. That's a secret. I do that for many reasons.
What's the biggest win that you've had in your career?
Besides Nationals, which I think was big back in 2008 when I won the U.S. Pro Crit Nationals, I would say winning CSC Invitational in Alexander, Virginia. That was huge because that stage was bigger than U.S. Pro Crit. That stage had CSC. It had Toyota United, which was stacked with really good guys. Like J.J. Hayato was in the sprint. Ivan Dominguez was in the sprint. We had Alex Candelaria. There was so many big guys that are still racing at the top of the sport that I beat hands down in a full, straight up sprint, and I think that was the biggest win.
Here's another hard question. Is there any previous success or failures that makes you feel ashamed?
Ashamed? I don't think so. No, it's good. I don't think so. Because, I raced. My old coach who passed away almost a year now told me when I was growing up, he was coaching me, he said, Rah, you win, you crash, or you get disqualified. And it's kind of like the mentality that I've always had. It's like, just go until you blow. Don't hang in a race just to hang in a race and say you completed it. Like if you see me race, I try my darndest. If I get second, I get second. If I win, I win. If I get last, then I did the best I could to get last. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, this is a question I ask just about everybody because it always gets a good response. But do you have more pain of discipline or regret in your career?
I definitely have some regret. Then on the flip side of that coin, I know that if I spend more time over in Europe, and there's a story, I'll take you right back. In 2001, right before I went to college, I was on the U.S. national team, and the World Championships were in Belgium. Hands down, I was the best guy coming out of the U.S., and I had a really good chance to win. That was the year Mario Cipollini won. It was a dead flat course in Belgium. Noel was the U.S. national coach at the time in Belgium. All I needed to do was go back to the U.S. for about 2 weeks, get my books, check in the classes, let them know what I was doing, and I'm sure Indiana University would have supported me in one of their students doing the World Championships. Well, he told me if you leave, you can stay home. All I wanted to do was just go check in the class, right? So I had to go. I had to go to school. And I left school, and that was really kind of like the downfall of me being in touch with the national team because I had to choose between World Championships and staying there, or going to school. We all know what I chose. So
Yeah.
the only regret I have is I wish I could have spent more time in Europe. But again, it's like I don't think I'll have my 3 beautiful kids right now. If I spent all that time in Europe, they wouldn't be.
How old are your kids?
The oldest is 8, and then a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. 3 girls.
Wow.
So,
You have a big responsibility there.
yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
So I spend less time on the bike.
Yeah. What is it going to take for you to get on another pro team? What is it going to take?
I think it's going to take someone who wants to give me an opportunity. Someone who's not going to look at, oh, he's going to be 31 soon. Oh, he's slowing down, because I don't think I'm slowing down. I think looking at the age is the biggest thing. And then there's this thing out there that I get paid, that I want to get paid $80, $90, $100,000 to race for a team. I know the sport. I know it's not that sort of money within the U.S. to put any rider on your team. But I am at a point where I'm not racing for $30,000, $35,000. I can do other things for that, and I can still have fun and compete when I want. So that's why I'm in a position right now. I did have a couple offers this year to race on a pro team, but I wasn't willing to make that sacrifice and miss my daughter's birthdays and be on the road for X amount of days and weeks for $15,000 to $18,000. For me, it's that sacrifice is not worth it.
It's understandable. What advice can you give to another young athlete that might be in your position coming up?
Just stay at it. Don't burn bridges. I know people hear that all the time, but within this sport, it's that bridge is really small. You know, be competitive, but always be respectful. You know, the incident of like Dana Point we talked about earlier before we got on air is like that situation was very unfortunate for everyone.
Well, let's go back to that. That's Dana Point, 2010.
2010 sure was.
United Healthcare
Mm-hmm.
sets up a train. From a viewer's perspective, you're trying to get a wheel.
Mm-hmm.
All I know is there was a big blast, and you're on the ground. You come back up. You're throwing your glasses. So the perception from the viewers is, this guy has gone mad.
Yeah.
So take us through what really happened from you. What really did happen?
Well, usually when riders get together like that and you have someone purposely trying to crash someone, it just doesn't happen on that lap. It's things that happen within the race or even within the year, you know. And it's so funny, you know, the way things turn around. That kid, you know, when he was on a smaller team, all he did was follow me around, you know, in all these bigger races that I was doing. He wanted to beat me, which he should. I would do the same thing. And now he's on this bigger team, and he has Gord Fraser as his director. And Gord was a really good bike racer, you know, when he raced here in the United States and when he was on Mercury and all that stuff. But I know that a lot of the doings that came from Jay Keogh was taught by Mr. Fraser, Gord Fraser. And so that's why when the crash happened, I was like pointing at Gord, because I know Gord was telling him, you know, you do this, you do that, because that's just the way that was his, their decade of racing. That's how you race. It was balls to the wall. It was hard nose. It was
like
no
Piston
mercy.
Celtics.
Exactly. It was no mercy. Which, in a way, I have some of that in me. So during the Dana Point race, there was a couple of times where, you know, he came inside on me, and I said, hey, you know, just knock it off. Came inside again, and I said, hey, look, next time I won't be so nice. And he did it again, and then I went at him, and now we're getting towards the end of the race, and I think I have one teammate left at this point, and I'm just trying to get in, you know, I'm trying to get in where I fit in. And at that point, I wasn't going to get in front of him. I know the rules, right? I'm not going to get in front of him. I know the ethics of the race. And for some reason, he felt I was getting in his way. He made a hard right-hand turn. And I have to be honest with you, I was so disappointed in myself because I thought I could handle anything. I thought it didn't matter what he did, I can handle it. I would bounce off. But the move he made was so abrupt and so much of a right-hand turn. It just totally wiped me out. And it was so much emotion going on in that race with, you know, the death of my friend, teammate, Jorge Alvarado. I wanted to win the race. I was defending champion. You know, I had just found out my sister had been kidnapped the night before. You know, now I'm in Dana Point and I don't know what to do. My sister's kidnapped, and it was just a really, really emotional day. You know, I went out for a bike ride that morning, and for some reason I stopped at a light, and a guy walking across the crosswalk with a Bible says, "I'm going to pray for you," and I was like, "This is crazy, man! Like, I need someone to pray for me. I'm having a rough few days here." Yeah. And then the crash happened. It was like, so really, really tough day for me. And I wrote an email to all the officials, and I wrote an email to Gord, and I wrote an email to Dana Point, the people who put on the race, Roger and everyone else, on my way home to LA. And I felt really bad. I felt horrible for what I did. And I said, you know, from this video, which I saw that was up immediately, I said, I look like this angry black man that just want to throw a water bottle. Everyone thought I threw a water bottle. And it was a bad feeling. I have to say it was really bad. But then 24 hours later, the real video came out, you know, from the bird's eye view, because they had the race on, you know, on the local news.
Right.
And I was so happy that that video came out, because it clearly showed what happened. And a lot of people don't know this, but United Healthcare offices actually called me and wanted me to not talk about it. They wanted to pull the videos down because it was very obvious what happened. You know, right. After the real video came out, the YouTube videos from the consumer cameras look like I was the worst guy in the race.
Yeah, I mean, the viewer doesn't understand what's happening. We're just watching a race, and then, oh my God, what's going on here?
Totally fair.
So,
totally fair.
Anyway, you probably grew from that experience.
Absolutely.
You know, it's probably one of those growing moments in your life.
You know how to react after, you know, I've been in crashes before, and I've never once, you know, thought to get up and try to beat someone up, you know.
Take me through 5 laps to go. I want to know your strategy. In a criterium, flat race, 5 laps to go. Take me from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Tell me your positioning. Tell me what your strategy is.
Strategies always change, so it's not one strategy for every single race. I think any sprinter wants to be in the right position at the right time. For me, I'm focusing on being relaxed, because I've noticed just through the years, when I'm tensed and I'm focused on other things, I'm not going to have a good finish. But if I'm relaxed and I see things happening before they happen, that's when I know I'm going to have a good race. So no matter what's going on, how fast, how slow the lead out is going on, I have to focus on being relaxed. And I think that's 85% of my battle, just being relaxed. Fighting for wheels or not, I have to be relaxed as I fight for wheels. If I'm suffering, I still have to try to be relaxed as I'm suffering. Get down to the 4, 3, positioning becomes more and more important. Dana Point was a great example where I had great positioning with 2 laps to go. However, the lead out wasn't as fast, and with no teammates, and I'm just kind of hopping around. It's always about staying in front of the swarm, so you're constantly moving when you don't have a team, you know. So get down to the 2, 1 lap to go. Depending on the course, something like Dana Point, it's positioning, you know. It's knowing. I know most of the courses I know around here. So
do you want to be in the 3rd position, the 4th position, or is it just depends on
it depends
whose
on the
wheel?
Course. It depends on the course, yeah. You know, you take Manhattan Beach, everyone knows you got to be in the top 3 if you want to win that race coming out of that last turn. So I always tell people that I coach and people that I mentor, I don't care what you do and how fast you are. If you don't put yourself in a position to even win, you have no chance to win. So my thing is always, Rahsaan, get yourself into the position to give yourself a chance, you know. So it's always about like thinking ahead and getting myself in a spot where I need to be. And then if I can sprint, I'll sprint. If I can't, at least I did what I had to do to get myself in a position to sprint. But if you don't give yourself a chance, you'll never have a chance to sprint.
Perfect. Where do you draw your inspiration from while you're riding your bike? I see you're very locked in when you get into these races, and you know you're intimidating because you got a bike that says Predator across the handlebars, and you know you're arguably one of the fastest guys. So where do you draw your inspiration from with all that going on?
So many different places, honestly. My family's big support, mom and dad, especially my sisters and everything. I have 5 sisters, and when they come out and they support, that's definitely a lot of inspiration there. I think about, often during the race, I think about my immediate family, you know, my wife and kids. They love to see me win, of course. And just, you know, like I think about Jorge all the time. You know, I think about friends that I've lost. So that's what I mean. During the race, I'm not just thinking about the race. Sometimes I zone out and I think about other things. And I think, like, what if Jorge was here? How would he, you know, he would be leading me out. I actually go through these thoughts as I'm racing because it just keeps me focused during the race. A lot of times when you're so engaged in the race, those laps can seem like they're taking forever and forever and forever. Sometimes you got to lose yourself and just kind of go on your little island and then come back. That's why sometimes I go to the back.
Right. Okay.
I get out of the hustle and bustle. It's like going to the beach and putting your feet up for a second. You know,
Right.
I just kind of, all right, I've been fighting for wheels for the last 30 minutes. I'll go to the back, relax for a little bit,
Right.
get my wits back, and then I'll get back to the front. And sometimes that's why I do that.
What's up with the white gloves? I saw you bust these out. It was awesome.
I wear those sometimes when I think it's going to be a nasty crash, or honestly, like Dana Point, I think is the last time I had them on. I put them on, and I was like, I got to go to war. This is one of those races I want to win, and maybe a situation where I hit the ground and I got responsibilities. I need my hands. So when you have those bad crashes with no gloves, you tear up your hands sometime. Those are made by a good friend of mine who I grew up racing with, who was an Olympian from Malaysia, Josiah Inc. And Josiah made those because he left here, went to Asia, and became a big Heron racer. And so he's been developing different gloves, and that's his latest addition, the
They look
5
cool.
gloves. Yeah, I like them a lot.
Last question. Who would you like to thank for getting you into cycling?
Well, who got me into it was my 6th grade teacher, Reggie Garman. Introduced it to me, fell in love with it, and as my parents found out, it was a very expensive sport, and without the help of Major Motion, specifically like David Pulliam, who still runs the Major Motion junior team to this day. We had Damon Turner, Amir. It was so many. That group of people from the Major Motion Cycling Club did so much for me when I was from the age of 12 to 18, and they still help me out today. Kevin Evans, so many guys. I mean, they hands down nurtured me, took me under their wing, and just made sure that I was able to go to Arizona and go to the Nationals in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. It was that group of people, and so I definitely owe my cycling beginning to them. And now I have another group of people that's kind of drumming up money, helping me get to races. I got a lot of love in Chicago from people out there, and they do a lot for me in the foundation, and just couldn't be happier.
Well, we want to thank you for joining us, and we're honored to be able to interview you, and I think you're a huge name in Southern California cycling, and everybody forgets that you're only 30 because they've been watching you for so long.
Yeah.
And what people really need to realize is that you were a kid for so long, and because you were so dominant in this sport, the cameras were always on you, so it amplified some of the mistakes that you've made.
Mm-hmm.
But you really are a good guy for this sport, and we all want you to get back on a team and electrify the sport like you know how. And so we just really want to thank you for coming and doing this interview, because
Thanks for having me.
so thanks for coming. This is cyclingillustrated.com.